live on YouTube. Welcome, YouTube family. And then for those of you who are joining us on Instagram, welcome as well to you. All right. So we've got a couple screens I'm going to be swiveling back and forth to. So um, if I look this way, I'm focusing on the IG family. And if I look over this way, I'm focusing on the YouTube family. Okay, guys. So let's talk about this. Let's talk about the design, build, and live a better you process. So shout outs to you guys who've been following over these past few weeks, um, months, and maybe even years, really. Um, this past week, you may have noticed that I was featured on the list, and that was a pretty remarkable experience. One of the things that most people don't know is that sometimes, when a program like that is created or shot, that you don't really get a chance to see what the entire, segment is going to look like until it's done, right? And so I just want to give a shout out to the list and the executive producers and just the team there for just doing such a great job of putting it in collaboration with the conversation that we had, assembling it in a way that just made it work, right? Made it match for people to identify, where they are in their design, build, and living a better you process. So, that being said, tonight I want to talk about something that actually kind of came to my mind. Um, I think it was maybe a day and a half after, right, that particular segment was released, and and it was like this question that kind of came in a whisper, and it was like, are you okay with being rare? Right? Are you okay with being rare? Or do you just want to be like everybody else? You want to be a replica? And the significance of this question had to do with the process that I went through to just really get to a place where I could embrace the original, I guess, framework of my particular work as an image architect, right? Because I hadn't really come across anyone up until I started to talk about personal development, self actualization inside of an engineering framework. I hadn't come across anyone like that. There may have been like one person years back that was using a blueprint process, but I wasn't sure what their process was, right? So outside of that, I've always been sort of like a pioneer in this thought process of identifying people's lives as buildable using the same principles that I used as a professional when I was in the engineering field, right? Especially in commercial construction, right? Let's also be very, very particular about that. So, since that moment, like I mentioned, going back to that whisper as I'm, kind of facing one morning, heading out, it just really hit me that if I can embrace and accept how either rare or original or just off the beaten path or how pioneering a particular perspective that I have is, I'm I'm gonna be okay. It may not always be comfortable, but I'm gonna be okay, right? And some of you guys have given me permission, in some, just genuine, sincere ways, right? By either an inbox message saying, hey, listen, I watched your video, or hey, I got your message, or hey, I totally follow what you're saying, it makes perfect sense, right? Like in those ways, those are sort of like subtle ways that you contribute to me in my journey by reminding me of like the value, right, and the impact of the difference that the message is having. Now, the truth is many of us don't have sometimes that level of the benefit of having people constantly, in some cases, or with whatever the frequency is, communicate and reaffirm or confirm what we've been up to, and how, you know although our point of view might be uncommon, how valuable that is, right? So sometimes we don't have that kind of feedback loop, and that's what tonight's conversation is about: is how do you get rooted and grounded in your own rareness so that you can apply this whole process of designing and building and living a better you. Because what happens is that you can design and you can, build, and then when you start to do the living part, if it's not based on the fundamental idea that you are okay with your design, right? Your design is part of your rareness, right? For some of you, your rareness, which is embedded in the design, is your sense of humor, or it's your sense of artistic skills, right? Or artistic eye. It's um, your sense of movement when it comes to physicality, whether it's as an athlete or as a dancer, or anything that demands the physical expression. And so there are so many parts of us that I think we suppress, and we try to design our lives after other people's lives, what we see online, what we see on the internet, on social media. I mean, even sometimes what we see in our neighbor doing, and we suspend the fact or displace the fact that we are original people, right? Like individually, we have our own origin story and origin situation. And so I'm going to make this very, very brief. And then for those of you who are interested in the visual sort of exercises that I'm going to walk some of you through, I'm going to show you like how to like really begin to deal with this part of us that usually, if we don't get it straight and we don't embrace it, it destroys the whole process of designing and building and living a better you. Is this making sense to everyone? Right? So, so I just mentioned that some of us, we have certain properties or certain skills, certain traits that are part of us, right? That influence the design or whatever it is that we're going to design or whatever it is that we want to design. And without embracing those traits, those things undermine everything else, right? That's the foundation. Okay. So that being said, let me break it down for you like this, and then I'll get into on the Zoom side the training to show this diagrammed out. So I want you to think that one of the things that was said in that design, build, and living a better you segment was how we all have 5 areas of life. Inside of the 25 blueprint methodology and models, they're referred to as kingdoms. In the segment, they're referred to as categories, just to make it easier for people to really kind of get it, right? But inside of the 25 blueprint model, I talk about them and consult and coach on them based on this idea that you have kingdoms, right? And those kingdoms, there are 5 of those kingdoms that you are responsible for governing, right? That you have to be sovereign in overseeing. Am I making sense? So the first kingdom is faith, and then you have fellowship, then you have finances, then you have feelings, and then you have fitness. Okay? Faith, fellowship, finances, feelings, and fitness. Another way to say it is, faith, which is spirituality, fellowship, which is your social life, finances, which is your money life, feelings, which is your emotional life, and fitness, which is your not just your physical life, but like it also includes the physical environment that you're living in, right? And how things play out there. Okay. All right. So when you look at all of these kingdoms and how they all just exist, they're kind of like, if there's such a thing as like a 5-faced Rubik's cube, right? All right. But let's just use the Rubik's cube example. Like there's a combination where like certain colors end up over here and under there and on top there after you move it around a little bit, that makes this Rubik's cube unlike another Rubik's cube that somebody has handled. Does that make sense? So think about your life as this sort of Rubik's cube product, right? It's in different colors, or and it's not all matchy matchy. The only time it becomes matchy matchy is when it's like maybe shipped to you. After that, after you get handled, right? There's different colors and different locations, and maybe your whole, over the course of your life, you start to try to reassemble and get things lined up again, right? But for the most part, while you're in that state of different colors mixing and being in different locations, that is your original situation. And so when you think about the 5 kingdoms, let's say faith and spirituality, which is your mindset and your philosophy, the thing about this is that you have the way you think and the way you view the world and the way you interpret and you filter what's going on around you. And that has maybe been influenced by the way you were raised or the tradition of faith that you came up with, right? Or what the people around you believed or what the people around you said. And now it's all part of your own philosophy. Okay, so you think about how that is, okay, and how that plays out. Now, think about now your social life, right? Some of us socially, depending on what family we're born into, um, are sort of on the lower part of the hierarchy of society, right? Some of us are in the mid tier, some of us are on the outlying areas, right? That part of our lives, the friends, the schools we went to, um, the churches, the synagogues, wherever it is that we went to have our times of worship and connect, there's a different combination of that, right? That's like one face of that Rubik's cube. And then there's the financial part, which is another kind of extension of that social piece, right? Where we are also indoctrinated and educated and influenced by, the amount of money or lack of money that we've had over the course of our lives. To make sense, it makes sense. And then we got the feelings kingdom, which is all things energetically, right? One of the best definitions of emotions that I've heard is the idea that our life and emotions is energy in motion. Emotions. The E is for energy, right? So, and then we've got our combination of how our emotions play out. Okay, and then of course the physical pieces, includes where you were born, where you live now, who you live around, right? Your health and well-being, nutrition, health and exercise practices. I mean, we can go on and on and on. How organized you are. So now, can you see how, if you really like imagine all those five circles, right, that make up the five kingdoms, if we were like to bring them all together, right, where they like interlocked, and we put an arrow right in the middle somewhere, can you see like that would be your rare intersection, right? That would be where you would have to design your life from. But the thing is, a lot of us don't. We neglect it or we embrace parts of it, and then we try to build our lives off of that. And I'm just here to share with you, listen, this wasn't even like part of the subject matter for me to have this conversation, right? Until it dawned on me that part of my own personal journey, and now I'm imparting it to you, is really owning and embracing the rareness, right? People talk about keeping it real. I say keep it rare. Did you hear me? I said people talk about keeping it real. I say keep it rare. Everybody can pretend to keep it real, but people don't embrace their rareness. And when they do, it's like they're like responding to embracing their awareness because they've been so beat up so bad over the course of their lifetime that they just feel like, they got to walk around with an attitude to let people know I'm rare, I'm different. Really? No, you're like bitter. You know those folks. You know who I'm talking about. I'm different. Are you though? Hmm. Hmm. I'm different. Okay. Then why are you so bitter? Why are you so angry about being different? So when you build from that bitter place, that's you're not gonna end up living a better you. You're gonna end up living a bitter you. Can I get a hallelujah? Right? Some raised holy hands about this. It's true. So you're designing, you're building, you live a bitter you because you've never really fully embraced your original, authentic, rare self. Wherever you might be right now, you're in your 20s, you're in your 30s, you're in your 40s, you have some interesting combinations of circumstances and situations that you've been in any of those five kingdoms that have formed and forged your character right now. And when that happens, you've got to build from that. But a lot of us, since we're not necessarily resolved and complete in all the things that we need to be about that, we end up building, putting a foundation, right, in with that stuff. And then we build, and then we want to live better lives, but the foundation is jacked up. All right. So if you're interested in getting this straightened out, getting this worked out, getting supported, getting some guidance on really how to start to embrace your awareness and then incorporate that into your blueprint so that you can genuinely have something designed and then build from there and then live a better you, let's have the conversation, right? Reach out. But I'm just going to caution you, the process is not easy, but it is worth it. It's just worth it. And a lot of things that aren't, you know, worth it are sometimes just easy, right? There's some simplicity to this, but it's not the easiest thing, because there are a lot of come to Jesus moments that you have to have in front of the mirror about the fact that you've denied and declined your own rareness, your own uniqueness, right? And in some cases, you might have compensated and created another version of yourself to cover up the fact that you're embarrassed, or you feel uncomfortable, right? Or you feel exposed, or you feel vulnerable, owning what makes you original, what makes you authentic, what makes you rare. Okay, so we've got to really hone in on this part in order for this whole process to work for some of you. Some of you, you've already got it. You already have embraced how original and unique and rare you are. And therefore, you have something to share, something to communicate, something that needs to be articulated. And you need, and sometimes you need help with that too, right? So that your design is really sound. And then once that design is laid out and like blueprinted, now when we're building and then we're living, it is the sweetest experience because our foundation is solid, right? Does this make sense? So, that being said, I want to thank you guys for tuning in for another productive soul conversation. Um, and like I mentioned, for those of you who are interested and feel like you are at a crossroad right now, right? Like you're at that place where something's got to give, something's kind of been on your heart, been on your mind, been on your chest for a while, and you feel like nobody gets it, nobody can hear you when you're trying to talk about the things you want to change, and they're trying to pacify you and say, oh, you're fine, you're good, you're, fill in the blank. But you just know deep inside that there's something you want to calibrate a little bit more. There's something you want to tweak, you want to adjust, so that you're really in alignment with your own rareness, right? That's important, right? Having someone or being in an environment where that's genuinely listened to and genuinely heard, and then genuinely kind of repeated back to you, so that you know that you've been heard and you are understood, and then being able to build a blueprint off of that, and then being able to start setting up your life, to build your life so that you can live that better and rare you. That's rare, that's uncommon, and that's what I'm saying, right? In reaching out to get supported around this, that's what this process is. This isn't quick fix, woohoo, get it done. No, this is like life, real life. It's live, it happens day in and day out, week in and week out, month in and month out. And it takes a certain kind of like rhythm and routine and ritual to kind of get adjusted to, so that like that new life, that better you version is, easy to get used to, or gets easier to get used to. And even in some cases, you getting comfortable with other people having to adjust with this better you, this new version, this you 2.0 version, right? That's now showing up around people. And then people, of course, naturally are going to be like, hey, who do you think you are? You were just, this, milk toast punk last week. Why are we listening to you now? Right? You're gonna have to deal with some version of the same thing. Okay. So rejection in your old environment, right? The new you shows up in your old environment. Your old environment is like, I don't know who this is, but I don't like it. Right? Maybe you start speaking differently, thinking differently, dressing differently, um, picking different projects to work on. Your correspondence is different. Maybe you're not on social media as much, or you're not, or the content of your social media is like changing, and people start to wonder what's wrong with you. Are you okay? Because and they start saying things like, "I miss the old you." You get the idea, right? You're gonna need help. And you're gonna need support. And I recognize I recognize that enough for me to go and get the kind of help and support that I knew I needed in order for me to continue to embrace my own rareness. And I also invite you to participate in that process for yourself. So, in the description area, I'll leave the information that you need. For those of you who really want to put this into action, fantastic. For those of you who, you're still figuring out, still suspicious about this whole, design, build, living a better you thing, Uh, listen, you're welcome to just be in that space and think it through and try to understand it. But the biggest thing is, if there's something gnawing at you, something that's been on your heart for a long time about doing something different, just consider this a message and a sign. Okay. All right, guys. So that's it. Thank you, guys. For those of you who want to join me on the Zoom side, there is a link available for that. Just send me a message and I can get that to you. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Have a fantastic evening. Thanks again for checking out The Productive Soul. Peace. All right, y'all. Just ended my IG. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, do that now. If you haven't liked this video, like it now. If you haven't left a comment saying what you got out of it or what you've been getting out of my content, go ahead and do that now. If there's people in your life that you're like, I think so and so would really like listening to what I'm putting down here, share this with them. Don't let life be some dress rehearsal that you're not taking action on, that you're gonna wait till when the show comes on and you really gonna remember your lines. No, 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 no. Remember your lines now. Do the things that you know you need to be doing right now. Okay? That's what has this whole thing work. So anyway, I want to thank you guys for those of you who are joining me on YouTube. I know I've been slower on the YouTube side with creating and sharing, uh, whether it's videos or content, whatever form that it needs to be in. But I want to do that more. And in order for me to kind of get a good sense of how it's going, I need your feedback. It helps. It helps to just know what people are appreciating and experiencing. Okay. So that's it. Love you guys, and I will see you guys soon. If you're interested, of course, in the Zoom side or being part of the 25 Blueprint Academy, where some of these trainings are made available, you know what to do. Just look in the description section, reach out, and we'll get you where you need to be. All right, guys. Talk to y'all soon. Peace.